Hi guys, and welcome to Reality with T. I am going to cover 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After. Right now, I'm going to talk about Syngin and Tania. Again, I'm still in the hotel room reporting to you. I didn't get my tea yet, but please come with your tea and give me some suggestions, okay? So let's get started. So we have Syngin and Tania. Remember, they're in South Africa. I think they're in Cape Town. And they're at a braai, what they call a braai. That's a barbecue, but basically, I guess they're burning. They're not using coal or gas. They're using wood. And so, they talk about Syngin talks about being homesick. Basically, he has FOMO, fear of missing out on life after spending the night with his friends when they were drinking the night before. He's like, I feel like I'm missing out on life, and I don't want to do that anymore. So they're sitting at the table with Syngin's family. And Syngin starts to talk about, the first thing I want to do is I feel like I want to buy land like immediately, and I want to do it in South Africa. So, he said, I never really had an American dream. I had a dream. And so Tania brings up, well, I definitely wouldn't want to raise my kids in South Africa. There's racism, there's poverty, there's a lot of, basically, like, it's not the ideal place to raise kids. And I believe that's Syngin's father or stepdad. And he kind of jumped in and was like, oh, okay, you're saying a lot right now. Because the way she said it was as if like I would never raise my kids here because there's something wrong, but they live here. Like, it's almost like there's no respect for the fact that people are currently living there. His family, it seems fine. You know what I mean? Just the way that you say things, people do not know how to, on the show, sometimes like kind of read a room, and just maybe there's a different way you could say things, or maybe you didn't have to say anything at all. Just listen, let him talk. You know what I mean? He's just talking. He's a dreamer. You guys can talk about those serious issues a little bit later. But guess what? It gets really heated. So, this episode had me like scribbling all my notes, right? So she doesn't want to raise kids there, this whole thing. So, she says, I had a great bringing up in the United States. There's a lot of diversity there. There's people of all places. There's people from all places there. And then she points out, look, his sister, I'm the first American you've ever met. And the sister kind of looks like this, you kind of put me on the spot. But I just felt like, why are you just like slinging all of this like energy at people? It's like you're just like taking cheap shots at everybody for no reason. And to me, the whole situation, like, these folks have way more bravado, like balls, than I would have to sit at somebody else's family's table and start talking like this. I just found it to be so uncomfortable. I would have felt uncomfortable, but she seemed absolutely fine. So maybe that's just a me thing. All right, so she says, so then, Syngin kind of jumps in and says, well, who says we're going to have kids? And so off camera, she's telling us, before, Syngin never doubted he knew I wanted to have kids. We talked about it a lot before he came to the U.S. It was when he got there, he started saying he didn't know if he wanted to have kids. And so, she says, bring it down, and I, Syngin, bring it down. And then, Dad interrupted. He said, Syngin isn't at home. You need to allow him time. He's got to be able to plant his feet somewhere. He's got to find his footing. He's just getting over there. It's almost like they think Tania just push. He just got there, the whole thing. And so she says, well, I need some seriousness. I've been waiting pretty much for 2 years for him to get it together and, try out a career. Basically, you're interested in about 8 things. Can you at least try one of them? Take it. Sometimes she says she feels taken advantage of. We got married, but you've taken no steps to move in any direction that you said you were going to go. She's like, can I please at least get some direction? I can understand you don't know what direction. Let's just go somewhere, But I guess he's just kind of like, well, I'm kind of chill. I'm laid back. I'm a dreamer type of thing. And she's like, okay, but at some point, when are you going to want to settle down and just start doing something? I'm thinking she feels taken advantage of because it's like, I don't know if she's paying most of the bills or what have you, but it's kind of like, I'm here, you married me, you also came to the U.S., and you're not giving me what I wanted, which was to settle down and have a family. So she said it. She even asked at one point, at what point is it unfair for me to make him, move further to his dream, and at what point is it unfair for him to keep stringing me along in a way? So she just started yelling, just try. You haven't tried anything since I've known you. And he said, well, I don't want to be a structured person. The dad asked the question, and he was trying to ask the question, and Tania just kept da-da-da-da. And she says, she just cuts him off, and he says, well, Tanya, you have to give us a gap. In other words, let us speak. So he sees the dynamic between them where it's like Syngin is trying to talk, she's cutting him off, she's pushing, pushing, pushing. And so the mom says, well, in the end of the day, it's his choice. Let's step back a bit and let Syngin decide, type of thing. And so he says, then Syngin, I believe, says, you need to take a step down, because Tanya was getting she was kind of yelling, raising her voice, getting very frustrated. And she says she feels unheard and unappreciated. And I can understand how that feels. I don't like when, I guess she feels like she's sitting here by herself. Everybody around her is on Syngin's side. Everybody's trying to tell her to chill, and nobody's hearing what she's saying. I get that you are a free spirit and a dreamer, these things, but at what point are you going to start moving in a certain direction? At one point she said you wanted to drive ambulances. I tried to hook you up. You never took that step. You were never motivated enough to take that step to even try that field out. So at what point do we stop giving you a platter of try this, and you never taste any of it? You know what I mean? Like, come on, step up. At some point you have to provide for this, for our family. And of course, if we're going to have kids, I can't just have you talking about I'm a dreamer, I'm a bartender today, a firefighter tomorrow. You know what I mean? Pick something and let's move forward. So, she's very scared. She said that he has no direction. She's waited for 2 years. And so then, Syngin's dad said, listen, Syngin, your wife is saying a lot. Pretty much, are you hearing her? Are you listening to her? You're going to have to process this as well. You guys have got to work on this together. And the mother says, I think she told her at one point, that she went too far. You're pushing him too much. And he says, and then I believe she walks out because she's very upset. She's frustrated. She feels like everybody, that's why I wouldn't have even brought up this topic. Maybe if you just wanted to talk one-to-one to the dad or to the mom or to Syngin, I just would not have brought up this topic in the middle of the bride, where it's his entire family and then just you, because of course they might see that might take their son's side of the argument because that's their son and they know him, they see him in a different light. So of course you're gonna feel like nobody's on your side. And then it just wasn't appropriate to have, like, everybody's having, they were in good energy, you're eating, you're having a meal together, getting to know each other. It just wasn't appropriate for them to have this conversation. So at some point Syngin does apologize. I'm sorry you guys had to see that. But it also seemed kind of regular to them, like nobody really seemed disturbed by it. And then the father said, well, that's married life, it's fine, it's okay. And he says, well, I'm not going to be married if it's like this. So at this point, Tanya's walked out. Now I'm going to take a little caveat, because everybody else saw what I saw, was that the whole argument, Tanya was cutting up that steak and eating that steak and arguing, and I'm just like, first of all, I would have been so hot and heated, I wouldn't have been able to think about the food, but she never stopped eating the whole time, right? So then she goes back to, she goes into the room, and she comes back and she makes an announcement, right? And she says, I would just like to say, if I came and spoke like this in front of our family, if I started this conversation in front of my family, you would have had a fit. And so she said it would have been a problem. And so he says, well, no, it wouldn't have. And she said, I guess he gets upset if she brings up an issue in front of her family, because I guess he would feel at that time that he was in the minority or maybe felt ganged up on. So she's like, you brought this up in front of your family. I just want to make it clear that you brought this up and you started this in front of your family. And, basically, if this ever happens in front of my family, just know that you did this to me. And then he's like, no, it wouldn't. So she said, okay, I'm crazy, I apologize, because she's just like giving up right now. She comes back, she grabs her plate and goes into the room by herself. So I'm like, she came out to make an announcement and grab her plate. So then she goes and sits on the bed, and she's eating in the bed. And it's funny because my 4-year-old was like, mommy, that lady's eating in the bed. And then I see everybody commenting in the blogs like she was eating in the bed. And then you see Syngin come talk to her later, and his feet are black. His black ass feet are on the bed on the white comforter. And I'm like, oh, that's so disgusting. Like, where was he walking? Or he actually seems like he just walks around barefoot all the time, because he had to be walking in the cold, in the dirt and everything, because the bottom of his feet were just black and disgusting. But anyway, the mother says, I understand where Tanya's coming from, but I think she pushed too much. So I think that the dynamic of the family is, let's not push anybody. Let's not push Syngin. He's a free spirit. Let's allow him to be who he's gonna be, and let's not push him too much. But sometimes, and I think Tanya thinks, at what point do I get to push him? Like, I need to know where this is going. So, you know, they sit down, well, they're in the production thing, and she's explaining the same thing. And at some point she's like, you need to level up. Okay. If you say that you've gotten where you are, where you want to be right now, level up again, level up again. And he says, I'm not Super Mario Brothers. And that would have made me so upset, because I'm being serious. Whatever terminology I'm using, you know what I'm saying? Don't try to change the subject. Don't try to deflect. Don't try to take it off of what I'm talking about. And nobody talk about no damn Super Mario Brothers. Respond to what I'm saying. Okay? And so, you know, she says basically her thing is, I feel like I've just been getting a lot of broken promises. I'm sure that he told her, listen, when I get over there, you know, I want to either try firefighting or be an EMC or whatever. And then when he got here, he wasn't thinking about that. He was like, oh, bartending, oh, herbology, oh, this and that. You know what I mean? So that's what she feels like, he's broken promises. And she says that she thinks that he told her things just to keep her around. And he said, that's not how I roll, baby. That's not how I roll. And he just said, I'm a big free spirit. And she also said, you know, I'm a free spirit too, but at some point I'm going to gather my spirit up and put all that energy in one direction. And he says, I think she said something about, when I met you over here, you hadn't paid 2 months of your rent. You know, basically like you were just lollygagging. And he was like, what? That's not true. And she said, you hadn't paid 2 months of your rent. And he said, I've gotten where I want to be. Something he said. And she was like, well, I got you to the U.S. You came to the U.S. because of me. Basically, you haven't done anything on your own. Everything you've done is because somebody helped you get there. And then he says, you know, he never really wanted to come to the U.S. And she said, I know. And when she said, you know, I got you to the U.S., he was like, oh, so you feel big-chested now because you brought me to the U.S.? Is that what you're trying to say? And so then she says in the end, I can't deal with him when he's drinking. So apparently he had been drinking, and maybe he is more abrasive. But I think that he was telling a drunk soul tells no tales or something like that. I think he was saying exactly how he feels, because I didn't see that anything that he said was too, you know, absurd. I think that he really feels that way. So we're gonna see what happens with them. But I honestly don't think that they're meant to be together. I can see that Tanya was a free spirit as well, because she, like she said, used to travel the world and stay here and there. She met Syngin, moved in with him for 2 months. You know, she also, there was a time in her life, I think she also was like, there was a time in my life where I had no plan. She said, I was a free spirit. That's how I tagged you. But at some point, she had a time, she had something in her head that said, you know, when I get to 30, I'm going to settle down. I'm going to pick this direction. I'm going to go in it, or whatever time. And he's not on that timeline. And so that's where they are having issues. So let me know what you think. Comment in the comment section, like and subscribe. I hope to see you for the next 90 Day Fiance Happy Ever After. Thank you. Bye-bye.